What would make this an especially meaningful conversation for you today?
I just like, basic questions sort of answered about like how I can better approach certain question types and how I can like better drill certain question types because I've been going at this thing pretty long, I guess. I've been studying since the summer, but the thing about that is when I was studying during the summer and when I was with another tutor, admittedly I wasn't taking my studies very seriously, and I was kind of relying on what the tutor was going to tell me, or like, I would do the work that was assigned to me, but only enough to get it, to get feedback from the tutor. And that lasted for about 2 months. Then I found your blog, and I just really appreciated how thorough you how thorough you are, because I just kind of lack, like a lot of the tutors that I've had in the past lack that crucial element. It just didn't seem like they were truly invested in the students' success and their progress. But I guess my first question is, how do I keep like momentum? Because, I've been a little, I don't know, a little dispirited, kind of. I don't want to say I've been on a decline, but yeah, I'm taking the test in January. So yeah.
Good. Well, I'm glad you've got some time, and I'm glad that you found my resources helpful. I guess what you're really looking for is motivation and the spirit to keep going with this. And so I would ask you then two things. One is, what is your goal? And what will happen if you don't make it? Those are two things to keep in mind. So let's talk them out a little bit. Why do you want to go to law school, and where do you want to go?
I want to go to law school because I don't know. There's so much rampant like inequity that I've always had a heart for, helping improve. And I don't know, I just my daily conversations with people tend to lend themselves to like issues of law and, policy and things like that. So, I mean, it's really just kind of in my blood. I will admit that, law is somewhat of a family profession. Both my father and uncle are attorneys. My uncle graduated from Georgetown, and I think he got his LLM from Notre Dame. And I like Georgetown. I'd love to go to Georgetown. It's a reach school, but I'd love to go to Georgetown, Penn. Like, I'd love to go there. Like I said, those are reach schools. Vandy, Texas, those just really kind of strong programs. Emory would be good. I'm sorry. Yeah, Emory would be good. Just those are kind of like my higher end choices. And then I have a few safeties that I'll still apply to, but that's why I've been trying to get my, scores and things up. And that's why, I've been watching a few of your videos, and you said that, in lieu of like rolling admissions, like, the later you take your test, it's like, the less sort of room there is to kind of squeeze through the door. And admittedly that's been a concern of mine, but I'm hopeful. I'm praying, but yeah.
Well, January isn't too late, first off, and you've got about 3 months until then. So that's plenty of time to make anything happen, especially since you're not starting from scratch.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there's a couple of things you can think about with regard to motivation. One is, you said, your inequities in the world, inequities in society. And so you can think about and keep at top of your mind, what are some of the worst inequities or worst situations you see out there in the world? in policy and society and politics that you think you could help to fix with the law. So you could keep some atrocities in mind, as depressing as that could be. That could also serve as motivation, because there's bad stuff happening out there that you could help to fix. You could also keep in mind, what would you like to fix? What would be the end result you would like to see? So if there's some bad law you want off the books, or some new law you'd like to help enact, or there's some population you think you could help, those are all things you can use as fuel and as motivation. And then some of the law schools specifically that you would consider reaches, like Georgetown, for example. If you visit campus, or you talk with current students or alums, and you can imagine yourself at that school, and you could even have the school's picture of the main campus or the logo of the school on your desktop or on your home screen on your phone, just as a reminder of where you want to end up, those are some reasons for you to keep hitting the books day after day or night after night as motivation to help yourself get the best score possible.
And I guess that's kind of why, like, I'm sort of non-traditional, or maybe non-traditional is not exactly the word, but generally after people graduate from undergrad, because I'm a graduate, they go off into whatever field of work that that they have lined up, whilst having to juggle LSAT prep. And luckily, I'm able to take a gap year and prepare. So every day for me, my job is to study. And I try to dedicate like 6 to 8 hours. It definitely does not always happen. But, I guess my thing is, like, when you feel you have one job and it's like, but I'm not, it's almost like I'm not making the progress in that job that I'd like to make. It's like, I don't know.
Well, 6 to 8 hours a day is a lot. And so if you do that every single day and you're studying full time, that could very easily lead to burnout, because the LSAT is taxing, and 6 to 8 hours is a long time. I might recommend reducing that a bit, closer to 5 to 6 hours, with frequent breaks scattered throughout, just so you don't run that risk of burnout. And then it could also be helpful to actually, somewhat counterintuitively, take on some other responsibility simultaneously to force yourself to get a bit more organized and keep moving ahead with everything you do. Like if the alternative to studying is like watching Netflix or going on your email or social media or whatever, that could be a distraction. But if you were also simultaneously like working out a lot, or you had a volunteer work or a part-time job or something, that could force you to make the most of every single minute that you have. When you study for 6 to 8 hours a day, what does your day typically look like? What's the schedule breakdown each day?
Oh, wow. You should see my desk. I've got like 4 next 10 books. Some of which I work my three-month plan out of course. Then I have a Kaplan book that I don't open it really. I mean, I look at it sometimes, but I haven't really opened it in the past few weeks. And then I do Khan Academy.
Nice. Fantastic.
So, yeah.
And do you feel like you have a detailed plan of attack? Because I think I sent you one to use along with the course.
Yeah, you did. And I've been looking at it and I've been working at it. I mean, I'm going to be honest. Some days I kind of fall behind, but yeah, I've been working the problems, and, some of them I miss more than I'd like to, but I try to go back and, do the, or explain it to myself in my head, because, there aren't any answer explanations in the next 10 books, in the next 10 series. So,
right, correct.
So that's what I try to do. But I guess to kind of get into the meat and potatoes for the last few minutes that we have, the question types that I tend to struggle with, and analytical reasoning or logic games, are for how many of these are completely determined if da 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 da, and then like the substitution questions, of course, and then more sort of general approaches that I kind of struggle with, like making all the necessary inferences and correctly notating terms and conditions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So with logic, I'll speak to the latter couple of questions you had first. So making all the necessary inferences, you may not make all the inferences all the time. When you look at explanations and you see someone else's perfect way of doing the game, that's someone who's expert in this exam, who's been doing it for years and years and years, and they may not have seen that way of doing it the first time around, the first time they attempted it. So keep in mind that ideally what happens most realistically on test day is that out of the 4 games, you might solve 2 of them super efficiently, but then you build up a time bank to solve the other 2 a little bit less efficiently. But over time, as you do more and more games, you will come to make more and more of those inferences up front when possible. And also note that some of the toughest curveball games actually don't have a lot that you can do in the way of upfront inferences. And rather, you're doing more work over the course of the game. And that's just the nature of the game. The short answer is simply practice, and your sense of when to make inferences up front will improve with time. And you have enough time to do a lot of games. You said you have 4 books of next 10 exams. That's 40 exams. That's 160 games. And so you work through all of those. And you also work through my list of curveball games that I'll send you. And you'll be setting yourself up for success on those.
Oh, yeah. And I just want to say, like, I look at some of your games that you post on your website, and they're particularly rigorous. Like, I look at them, I'm like, oh my God, this is like watching games on steroids. Like just when you thought it couldn't get any more difficult. But I think that's why I really like your program, because you're thorough and you seek to make it, or you want your students to be prepared for any curveball that they might throw. It's always, it's safer. It's better to be safe than sorry. So I always appreciate that. But I will say that I've improved my Lexile levels on Khan Academy with my reading comprehension. And I'm an English student, or I graduated with my BA in English. So I was always kind of baffled by that. Like, why am I having trouble with this? But oddly enough, when I started slowing down, that's when I started doing better. Stopped caring less about the clock. I still check the clock after I finish. Like, did I make it under 3 minutes? Preferably under 2 minutes and 30 seconds. And a lot of times I do. But when I started slowing down, the better I noticed the better I started doing, because I was absorbing the necessary material for the questions. And in terms of logical reasoning, my reasoning has improved too, because I look for the logical gap. Like when I'm reading it, I almost kind of diagram in my head, because you don't always have the time to diagram on paper. So I kind of do that in my head, and I think it's obviously necessary to know the basic rules of formal logic to attack those questions, no matter how taxing they get. And I'm also employing your approaches of, if it's too draining, try to come back to it. So, I mean, I'm working. I'm definitely working, but yeah, I'd like to be in the 170s, but I mean, we'll see.
But it sounds like you're doing all the right things, especially what you said about slowing down, taking the time to thoroughly understand things, whether it's making inferences up front for a logic game or taking the time to thoroughly understand the stimulus. Timing is important, but you have enough time until January that you can focus on accuracy for now, then introduce the timing and the pacing a little bit later. But give yourself a chance to learn the material first and start to interpret and analyze all the patterns within these questions. Because that way, when you see a new question, you'll be able to automatically relate it back to something you've done previously.
Okay, so my last question? What's the best tactic for drilling? Like, because you have on your day-by-day study plan, you drill certain types, but aside from that, what can I do on my own to just keep at it, like keep drilling certain types of questions and games and stuff?
Well, if there's a certain game type or question type that you have a special difficulty with, then focus on that, doing several of those in a row. So if you have trouble with grouping in out games or trouble with flaw questions, you just do several of those in a row, maybe a couple dozen in a row, to start to better see the patterns in what they're asking you to do in that particular question type.
Yes.
Now, if you were looking for other types of drills to do, one thing I love to have students do for logical reasoning is to drill questions involving abstract language, not related to the question type in the question stem, but rather questions that involve complex, abstract, formal language with tough vocabulary words. You just do a bunch of those questions in a row, look up all the words and phrases that you're not familiar with, so that next time they come around, you'll be able to interpret them more quickly and not waste time getting stuck on those.
Yes. Before you go to, I also want to say that I have a online, or not online, but a Word document, a journal, a mistake journal. I've only done it for one of my tests because I had taken about five tests prior to when I started my 3-month day-by-day plan. But just sitting there, forcing myself to go through my thought processes was very helpful. I felt a lot more confident about my understanding, my comprehension of, the necessary approach to certain question types. So
that's great. I'm really happy to hear it.
Yes. I don't believe I have any more questions for you. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I'll keep trucking on, and we'll remain in contact.
Fantastic, Barry. I'm really happy to hear it. What would you say is the biggest insight you got from our call today?
Ooh. Don't lose sight. Pacing. It's more about your approach and how you go about it, rather than how much you do or how much you run through. So if that makes sense, like if you drill a certain set of questions and you start to pick up on them, it's better to do that than to like run through just a bunch of just different questions and get them all wrong, to just say that you're doing, haphazardly. So
that's exactly right. So it sounds like you know exactly what to be doing over the next couple months. So just keep at it. Thanks for tuning into the show. Please subscribe if you haven't done so already to be notified of new episodes as I release them. And feel free to reach out if you need anything at all as you move forward with your prep. I'm happy to help however I can. In the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.